Dana Denha here, and this is Let's Watch with the Ann Arbor Film Festival. Here in Washtenaw County, we can experience the arts in so many ways. But come March, the world-renowned Ann Arbor Film Festival brings outside-of-the-box thinking to galleries in the majestic Michigan Theater, where experimental cinema and art reign supreme. Joining me is Eric Souther, a new media artist with a live cinema performance at the 64th Annual Ann Arbor Film Festival. Welcome to the show, Eric.
Thanks, Dana. Thanks for having me.
Reading up about you and trying to learn a little bit more about you, everything you're doing is so interesting and new that I wasn't even like sure that was like your job, this kinetic imaging at Western. I didn't know that was even a career path.
Sure. As you say, I'm a assistant professor of kinetic imaging, and it's a degree that looks at experimental media practices and animation, game art, and I teach the video art at Western Michigan University, which kind of sits across a lot of different areas. We do some basics in like film production, but I also cover a lot of expanded media practices that include like making work for a 360 planetarium in local town in Kalamazoo Valley Museum. So we create larger kind of multimedia experiences, including projection mapping and other kind of real-time performative uses of video.
So how did you get into it?
Well, I went to the Kansas City Art Institute for my undergrad in the new media program. Like a lot of art students, went there for graphic design and found the moving image my freshman year and was just like, okay, this is actually where I need to be. Went on and got a master's in electronic integrated art from Alfred University in upstate New York and have been doing experimental media for 15 some years. And about that same amount of time in art education and teaching others how to go about learning and doing these things. So,
How have you seen this program sort of expand over this 15-year period? Do you find that there's other universities in the state of Michigan that offer what Western's offering?
so there's definitely some pretty amazing folks right there in Ann Arbor doing art and technology related fields. And so I think that's the maybe more expansive umbrella to think about is how does technology intersect with art? And of course, yeah, Michigan has a lot of new things going on. We're certainly trying to uh, make an impact in the field in experimental media art in Western Michigan. I help run a gallery space up in Grand Rapids called Resonant Gallery. And we had our inaugural show last September for Art Prize. We have 20 flat screens and 20 directional speakers. And I think we're on our third show. So we have a show up until end of March called Flicker and Roll, which highlights artists making media from the 1970s all the way to today, and specifically around analog video technologies, which is an obsolete technology at this point.
So, do you find that people are like interested in kind of integrating the old school methods with the new school methods?
Yeah, for me, I think it's all about hybridity. How do you mix those things? How do you I think there's in our world today, we tend to think of technologies like, oh, this is obsolete, so why learn it or what use? But like we go on so quickly, what didn't we discover in its use and its capabilities when it was kind of in its prime? And then you start mixing that in with contemporary technologies, and you have a really interesting hybrid form. I get excited in my own research too, is I'm looking at a lot of I'm a tool maker, so I make tools for myself, but others to use as well. Primarily in the node-based programming environment called Touch Designer, but that allows artists to develop like complex programmatic changes in real time, but they don't have to know how to code. They make pieces of logic with little blocks, and you can make pretty complex results. And that's part of the performance I'll be doing in Ann Arbor Devotional Signals is created with that platform.
Well, you mentioned your tool making. I actually have this question where you have all these different disciplines. You mentioned new materialism, anthropology, ritual, deep time, tool making. Explain how all this comes together because I feel like the way art is moving is is that you have to be multidisciplined. You have to know how to do a lot of stuff.
If we were talking about new materialism, specifically, it's about the return to material. And I think that also gets to, sorry, I didn't finish my sentence, but new materialism is a return to thinking about material having some agency. And whether that be networks of analog pieces of technology or rocks or out in nature, you're giving material agencies ability to speak. And if we think about that in relationship to art making, postmodernism is very much about privileging the idea. New materialism privileges this idea of new material, but ideas are a part of that. So that's as an artist, I feel like you have to think about what is the ways in which you're talking through your material, and then how is the idea or the concept that you're working with resonate with that. And so I'm at that kind of intersection with a lot of my exploration. So I make a lot of my own tools that do processes. For example, in my recent piece, No Time for Deep Time, I create audio synthesizers and video synthesizers that essentially in real time recollages and reweaves footage shot from pictured rocks National Lakeshore up in Michigan, UP. And I was looking for visual metaphors that talked about frequencies that are kind of left in rock formations over thousands or not millions of years over deep time. And as if you could see like a time lapse of that rock formations. And I think artists being able to go into other fields and be like, okay, what's going on? So I spent a lot of time in geology books and reading geology, and I'm an artist that deals a lot with frequencies and oscillators to as a main material form that works its way out both audibly and visually. And geology books talk about frequencies a lot when you see rock formations kind of molding and building sedimentary layers over time. And I think what's kind of important about unpacking our relationship to deep time is this ability to consider different ways of different scales of thinking. So how do we think as humans in long-term historical moments, and what can that long-term thinking benefit us as a society?
Well, let's talk about, the other thing that it's in your art, and it's just visual
Sure.
when I'm looking at it. You really like your colors are really vibrant and they really come out at you. And even like looking at your background right now, you're like, yeah, this is a colorful person. Talk about the importance of having like that sort of impact, that vibrant impact, and the way your sound incorporates with your images.
So a lot of what my work does for the performance I'll do in Ann Arbor and the piece that I was talking about is direct audiovisual relationships, and those are kind of embedded in. So when I say like oscillators, you can imagine a wave,
Hmm.
and that wave is cutting through multiple layers of images. I work iteratively, so thinking about ideas of sedimentation, I'm running processes back through the same process over and over again, so you get um, like a sedimented layer of performance because all of this is done in real time. So I'm moving knobs and kind of creating this audio visual feedback for me, the artist. So I would give up any resolution to work in real time. So that's my comfort zone. I can make choices as an artist as I see things happening, and a lot of that happens in software, right? So either you program these things or you work in real time environments, which I think is a lot of where the field is going. As far as vibrancy, right? I think any artist is kind of attracted to a lot of color and movement, and I tend to go towards maybe a information overload type of an aesthetic that I'm sure you'll see.
Well, that's when I was watching and I was like, do you have to warn people about like strobing lights and stuff when you watch it, just in case medically?
I have to give the same kind of content warnings for my students in my classes too.
I was like watching this and I'm like, obviously I can handle it, but I could see where like if you had a medical condition, you're like, I need to know about this in advance.
Interesting. There's a lot of cultures throughout history who have used information overload to get you into states of like meditation or a different kind of states of thinking. For example, like Haitian Vodun or voodoo is maybe more of an American understanding of that name. The Haitians have used like intense drumming to get you in a state of possession. And that's all about bringing their gods, which are called loals. And it's really beautiful. It's a celebration of like their history, their ancestral history, as they celebrate their ancestors by bringing them into themselves and kind of the best of what you used to be is kind of boiled down to a god or an entity. But there's lots of examples of this overstimuli being opening you up to new ways of thinking, and that's where
I
I
can
tend to see.
totally imagine that drumming situation and bringing you into like a different state of mind if you really were to just let yourself like close your eyes and like disconnect
Yeah.
from the world. So, Eric, talk about the interesting thing about these live performances. How do you prepare? Do you, have sort of an idea and then you're like,
Yeah.
then we just sort of see what happens at the performance?
So the performance is around 10 to 12 minutes. There's multitude of scenes that are kind of set up, so I know I'm going to be kind of moving through different operations. The baseline set of the performance, I use something called a leap motion that tracks my hands, and I have gestures that I've pre-programmed to either hit drums or make different sonic choices, or when I grab my hands, I really wanted this piece to be about um, video as a material that I could kind of grab literally with my hands.
Hmm.
And so there's a lot of prep in this and thinking about what my body's doing as a performer, but also setting up the system to be dynamic enough that it's different every time I perform.
Hmm.
And so it is a real-time instrument. The main thing that you see is a set of lines that are um, similar to like graphics that you might see from a 1970s oscilloscope, if video was running in that, and you can kind of mold it and move through it.
Hmm.
And it itself is kind of a story of an aesthetic that's maybe obsolete. And towards the middle of the piece, I won't give away everything. That aesthetic shifts to kind of poke through the green line aesthetic to more contemporary full color experience. So I kind of have the performance outlined, if you will, to have like these subsections that I know are going to happen. And I have like a little foot pedal that I can push to go through. Something that's not in the documentation that is going to be for Ann Arbor is I have these lights that are on me that are DMX lights that you can control via the computer. And in some sense, it's kind of silly, but I rebuilt some of the technology you could um, use for your TV at home. You can buy those light bars that respond to the amplitude and the kind of the light that's on your screen.
Hmm.
These lights I've programmed to do something similar. So it's following the light of the visuals on screen and changing its color information based on that. And so there's some kind of intensities that allow you to see my hands as they're performing this kind of material play of the video signal.
Well, let's watch a clip from Devotional Signals. We're back with Eric. We just watched a clip from Devotional Signals. You were talking about how you create it, and like when you watch the video, I swear I was thinking, and I knew you weren't, but I was like, it looks like he's playing a theremin. Like you're, you know what I mean? Like
Totally. Yeah.
that was like the first, and I knew you weren't, and I knew what you were doing was like different. But like the way you watch someone play a theremin, it's very similar to watching you perform. But it's so cool because I didn't know you could just the way you're talking about like manipulating this and you're like just putting your hands over it. I didn't know that was even possible.
Yeah. I mean, I think I've been doing a lot of audio visual performances for probably about 10 years. And one of the things that um, one can do is that when you're creating these live performances with the computer, sometimes it could just look like you're checking your email,
Hmm.
right? Like,
Hmm.
how is the artist and the performer being decoded from the audience? And I definitely try to, in my work, to figure out something that's gestural, that gives me presence, that folks can very clearly see that I'm doing real-time manipulation and how I'm moving and manipulating this visual is all done in real time. And that's been pretty important for me. And if folks are really interested in that kind of thing, I helped found a festival in South Bend, Indiana called Performing Media Festival. It's in its 11th year this year, and it's, I think, next weekend, which is March, yeah, the 13th and 14th, I believe.
Hmm.
But that features a lot of artists dealing with this kind of thing.
Do you find more and more artists are interested? Like you said, it's sort of like the way you see art moving is like these sort of live cinema performances, art on the fly almost in a way, but it's prepared art on the fly. You're not just going in with no preparation.
Yeah, I wish I could show you my my piece of software that's made for it. It's there's a lot of programming that goes into understanding gestures of the hand and how swiping gestures work. And but I definitely think there's a lot of artists gravitating towards real time. And a lot of my research goes into how video artists have transitioned to these ways of working. In the 1970s, real time was essential. That's the only thing you had. And then like 80s, early 90s, right, we have computers coming online that are affordable, and a lot of people gravitated towards a non-real time, like a linear computer controlled like environment for editing video, right? And artists love that because they had full control. But I would say early 2000s, that kind of shifted where computers were fast enough to start doing real-time manipulation again. And so I'd say, yeah, for the last 2 decades, artists have been kind of reinvestigating the real-time ability to manipulate images and sound in real time and do live performances.
What inspires you? You know, you're getting images beforehand and then you're manipulating stuff in post. Like you mentioned, you know, the UP and rock formations and stuff. Is that typically where you get your original imagery from?
Well, that specific work is part of a series around deep time. And I would say that really started in COVID when we had no options to be indoors. And so I spent a lot of time shooting footage out in environments, and then trying to figure out, yeah, what can I say in this about these things and how I exist with them. But like yeah, that's an example of a specific body of work. And like the performance work is a little bit different. I think for devotional signals, it's mostly footage coming in from the web cameras that are actually in the sensor that's tracking my hand. So you see me in a real-time signal moving across these three-dimensional formations, and then you do see some footage from pictured rock come through as well. So to bring kind of the natural color saturation. So there is certainly a connection to that work. Um,
Do you know when your live cinema performance will be at the festival?
March 27th at 7:30 p.m. So I'm headlining one of I think program 7, which is official film competition part. So, yep.
Why don't you tell people why they should come check out obviously people come for the films. And then there's other stuff that happens throughout the festival, like your live cinema performance. There's art at galleries, there's VR experiences. You know, why should people go to the film festival for more than just the film?
I think it's just different ways for artists to express themselves. And I think the single channel is extremely valid and beautiful, but there's other ways that you can, yeah, experience the moving image in real time or in an installation. And I think that's, filling the gaps between programming too, to go and experience these different ways of seeing and artist expression. So.
Talk about how you feel it impacts the viewer to actually like not just watch a live cinema performance on a video, but actually to be in the room while it's happening and you're creating this art right in front of everybody.
Well, I mean, I think there's for me, the gestures that I'm looking for and the way I'm trying to manipulate video as a material, like they can actually experience that happening in real time. And I think that definitely impacts a broader experience of how these relationships can kind of unfold between artist and audience and the live video. That's different than the removed experience of me recording that and then editing a single channel piece for folks to experience. There's a little bit more risk involved when doing it in real time. Um, like an image could fail.
Yeah,
In
oh
some
yeah,
sense,
totally. And then you just got to play it off like you're in a play, like you're an actor in a play. Like you're like,
and
"Oh,
a
I
lot
got
of it is about play, right? It is going
yeah.
to be different every single time I perform. So as a performer, I think, I'm a visual artist first. I'm not a musician.
Hmm.
And so my sensibility about time is related to images. So if I find something that's aesthetically or something that speaks to me that's happening, like how do I sit in that moment for a while and allow others to experience? And then how do I go back out and find a new set of experiences or new images? So it is about like finding a phenomena of new images. Like what's changed? Can I find difference in the variable system that I created? And a lot of that's about seeking images versus thinking about other ways of organizing time like a composer might think of.
One of the things talking to you is making me think about that's really cool about the Ann Arbor Film Festival is that, as an artist, you always need to grow and learn. And if you don't like go to things like the Ann Arbor Film Festival, it's just a great place to learn about what's happening and the newest things that are going on and the different ways people are creating and working. And we're almost out of time, but I want you to talk about why you think the Ann Arbor Film Festival is so important as, a filmmaker, an artist, a viewer, a volunteer, any way to support.
Sure. I mean, I think you just very eloquently said it, right? Like, how do we get inspired and informed about what the art world is up to? And this is a great way to come experience that range and find inspiration and find new voices or new ideas that you haven't been exposed to. So I think it's all about broadening your own experience, your own worldview, and yeah, taking inspiration and figuring out ways to either contribute to that scene as an artist or contribute to the support of those projects happening. I think artists need support, and um, yeah, I think that the Ann Arbor Film Festival is a great resource for that.
Well, thank you, Eric. It's been a great conversation, and I hope you have an amazing performance at
Yeah,
the
thanks,
64th
Dana.
Annual Ann Arbor Film Festival.
Appreciate it.
To watch this and other CTN series, visit youtube.com/CTN Ann Arbor, and remember to like, subscribe, and share. I'm Dana Denhoff for Let's Watch with the Ann Arbor Film Festival.